Okay. We have a maximum of 15 minutes. Who would like to ask a question or make a comment? Incidentally, I think it might be helpful just to say who you are and where you are from when you do this, so that we all get to know each other a bit better. Who would like to start? It's always very difficult for the first person. Yes, at the back.
My name is Halvor. I come from Norway. We tend to believe that when young people make their choices about education or their career, they do this in a very reflected manner. We also think those among us who are parents that parents' influence has a great impact on their choices. Might be so, but it might also be that the real influence comes from their peers, their pals, so to speak. Does this influence the way we think about career management skills and so on? Thank you.
I think that it's a really important question. I mean, all of those apply. Of course, there's enormous influence from parents. There's enormous influence from the peer group. There's also enormous influence from the media. And how these decisions are made is complex, but often it's based on very limited approaches, and it's based on the notion that something has some effect, often some chance thing happens and people do something and then suddenly they find themselves doing something. And of course chance does matter. I mean, there is a theory of career development which is called planned happenstance, John Crumbolt's. I used a similar term actually. I used the term planful serendipity. Serendipity is a very beautiful English word. It means the knack of creating happy discoveries by accident. And it's if we think about our lives, often some things do seem to happen by accident. But actually in all of our lives, lots of things happen. And some things we respond to and some things we don't. And it's about what it is. How is it that we select something and see it as an opportunity to do something, whether it's about a boyfriend or girlfriend, or whether it's about a work opportunity, whatever it may be, which actually we act upon it. Why do we do that? And I think part of the role of career management skills is to say the more that young people have some ideas in their minds about this, have some concepts, have that sense that they're creating their career, the more likely they are to take advantage of these kinds of opportunities. But it's very important that we don't simplify it. Don't suggest this is a nice rational thing. If you go through this list of occupations and work out what your interests are and work it all out, then it comes up with what you're going to be and that's it. Life is not like that. And those tools can be useful, but actually when we do career education programs, it needs to be grounded in the reality. So stories. Parents coming in and sharing their stories, employers coming in and sharing their stories of what it was actually like, why I did this, and trying to distill from it things that we can learn. And it's often not the simple thing. That simple point, it sounds as though it was an accident, but actually, if you think about it, there is always something else going on there. So I think the question is a very important one. The range of things and we need to somehow build all of those things into the way in which they design these programs, which is why they're not simple. So, brief response. Other comments? Raimo, do you want to say something?
I would like to add what Tony mentioned, and you were referring to the use of information and communication technology in this matter, because the internet and the social media provides another aspect to the traditional internet. It provides an opportunity to produce information and knowledge among the peers. And Tony mentioned that it's part of our career education programs, the use of ICT. The curricula states that the students must be introduced to existing career information and career resources which are on the internet for two reasons. First, they have to know, they can know what is available after they leave school. But second, it's more important to distinguish what is the quality information. So what is the nature of the information, who provides that, who funds that, where it come from, and how this can be used as part of the own decision making. So this relates to the same question, that part of the program is to learn how to use and identify the information that meets my personal needs.
Maybe also a comment on your question from Norway, and I think it's something quite important question, what was said before. I called it in my publication informal guidance. So meaning the influence on choices of those who are maybe not professionals providing some services, but who are very important persons, FIPS, for young people and for everybody from us, yeah, namely the parents, the friends, and so on. Yeah. And in my opinion, and also when I observe studies and research, for example, in Canada, I read just recently a study of Canada, and even in Canada, where there are quite well-developed services, the important influence of the parents was still there and acknowledged. And, yeah, and it is very valid and also very positive, I think, to a certain extent. But what is, in my opinion, important is that there is a complementarity of informal and formal services, so that formal services exist. And for example, when I look, and I work mainly with low and middle income countries, I observe that in low and middle income countries, almost no services exist. Or there are so many countries where formal services are really underdeveloped. And this is an unhealthy relation, most probably. Yeah? So it is about an interplay. It is about a complementarity and also an interplay between formal and informal services. And then what kind of parents' involvement model is being used. This is also very important in career guidance. And let me tell you two concrete examples. For example, one is when I work with Egypt and some of the Mediterranean countries there, and Egypt has already for 5, 6 or 7 years the highest unemployment rate among the higher education graduates. Higher education graduates, yeah? And the trend to continue to higher education is still exploding, because all parents want to have them medical doctors or engineers then, yeah? And you can imagine at a certain point it will just implode or explode. And the Arab Spring was already a bit of a signal of that, what has happened, you know, Tunisia, for example, yeah? And there are also other examples of countries where, for example, students don't want to go to vocational education. Or when they do a choice that maybe could be considered as maybe not the best effective one for themselves, not to speak about the economy, themselves in terms of disappointment later. Disappointment, yeah. I went to a vocational school in Ukraine, and then I asked a couple of students why they have chosen this special construction school, that they are there. And the majority of them, they asked to me, yes, because my father was already working in construction sector. One said, yes, the boyfriend of my sister is also working in that, and he is quite satisfied. And then I went to the construction vet school then, yeah. Okay, might be good, yeah, but it might be also a very bad decision that later on is very, very much regretted, which costs a lot for the state through wrong choices, and then you have to switch and to find something new, but which is even not measurable in terms of negative impact of a person and disappointment of an individual then, yeah. Thank you.
Lachezar, can I ask you, we were just talking before, and you were saying something, one or two interesting things about the resistance that might be to this, and perhaps some of the ways in which, in practical terms, because this is not easy what we're talking about. We're trying to, for example, in Bulgaria, to get something going, so I know now that you do it. How to
A lot of things I would like to say. Actually, we tried something now this year, and this conference is our final effort to a national campaign which we called Career Education in School. And we traveled around the country collecting feedback from teachers, headmasters, representatives of the business, representatives of the local authorities, speaking about this model of career education, explaining the concept, asking them of their opinions of the role of the teachers and how can we change the attitude of teachers to, how to say, to the organization of the learning environment in schools, so to enable young people to make better career and education choices. And actually it's a great challenge because we want the teachers to be active. We want the teachers to be more sensitive as to the, how to say, potential dropouts. Because you all know the Europe 2020, it's not about the talented people. It's about the people which have some kind of problems, some kind of some risks of social isolation. And for me, career education and all these guidance services, they should focus on this issue because this is the problem of Europe now. And when we discussed with them, most of the teachers, they said, oh yes, it's a great idea, but it's an additional burden. It's not paid, it's additional burden. We are not counselors. It's a specific activity. We're teachers. And here, for me, it will be interesting to hear from you, and it will be interesting to hear in the podium discussion how do we link the activeness of teachers with the work of the career counselors and parents. For me, I think this is the challenge. How do you combine it? Because it's a system. It cannot be the separate efforts of different specialists at different stages. It should be a system. It should be a system, and it's not much for me the problem of funding. It's the problem of the organizing these people under one goal, and this goal is to provide opportunities for the best choice in terms of education and career development of young people. And for me, it will be a pleasure to hear what is happening in our region. I'll be happy to hear again our Serbian colleagues as well. I forgot to say this, but we have great representation from Serbia. They have a great document which is called National Strategy, but behind this document there are really some things happening in their system. It will be great to share with us, and that's it. Sorry, I'm really inspired by this idea, but really the policy makers, they want very practical conclusions, because all this is great. All this, we have consensus about it, but when it comes to term, let's develop it, let's put it into practice, they're the challenge. The teachers are the major challenge. How to change their attitude, how to convince them that it's not such a big burden, and it is something, it can be something inspiring for them to provide this kind of service to the students. Thank you. Okay.
A good ending.
Okay, it's lunchtime. I'm sorry very much.